NBA playoffs round 2 action continues tonight on Monday, May the 6th. 2 games, and one in the East, one in the West. We have Pacers Knicks Game 1, and of course Timberwolves Nuggets Game 2. Conference semifinals are here, and I'm breaking them down each and every day for you. Full detailed analysis of the side, total, player props. Let you know how to make some money tonight in both of these games. That information's coming up free in just a moment. Hi, this is Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com, right back here on WagerTalk TV with your analysis for Monday night, May the 6th. And we do have Game 1 Eastern Conference semifinals in New York at 7:30 Eastern on TNT, Pacers and Knicks. And as I like to do whenever a new playoff series begins, is we dig into the regular season meetings and see if we can find some information. But of course, we always have to be careful to make sure the key players were in the lineup. And for Indiana, that's not necessarily the case because the trade with Toronto came in mid-January to get Pascal Siakam, the playoff veteran from Toronto. So he did not play in the December 30th game, but the Pacers still won that game rather easily, 140 to 126 in Indiana as a 4-point favorite, led by 17 points in the game. Knicks actually had a 9-point lead early in which they blew it. Everybody else was pretty much there in the game. Halliburton for Indiana had 22 points and a plus-minus of 19, 23 assists. 22 points and 23 assists. Just an incredible game by Halliburton back on December 30th. Julius Randle was still in the lineup for the Knicks. As you know, I feel he's the most overrated superstar in the NBA. And who have I been saying for a couple years now the most underrated superstar? Well, that, of course, is Jalen Brunson. And boy, did he not prove that closing out the Sixers last week. He had 39 points in each of the last 4 playoff games, 40 or more in 3 of those, and he is averaging over 35 points this postseason, the lead leaguer in the NBA right now. He had 28 in that game, and that's because Randle also had 28. Randle was actually 9 for 22. Both of them were exactly 9 for 22 from the field. Anunoby, of course, had not come over yet with that trade from Toronto. So the Knicks lost that game, but both teams had pieces on or not in that are not available now. Once again, Siakam was not there for Indiana. Randle was there for the Knicks. So can't take too much away from the side. What we can take away, though, is an extremely high-scoring game. 266 points, and that was not even overtime. That was regulation, soaring over the total of 248. Now, let's put that in perspective. The total on December 30th was 248. Game 1 tonight, 217. And that game still went over the total by margin. Once again, went over by 18 points, 266 points. So that's my big takeaway from that December 30th meeting. All right, let's fast forward. They played twice again in February. This time, Randle was not in the lineup anymore for the Knicks. Siakam was there after being traded mid-January. He was there for both of these February games. Of course, Brunson was in the lineup as well. And Anunoby was not in the lineup, though, for either one of these games. And the Knicks have been over a 70% team since January 1st when OG Anunoby has been in the lineup. So that is the one thing I will point out, is that he was not there for the Knicks in these 2 February games. The first time they played in February was on the 1st in New York. Knicks were a 2-point favorite, and they won and covered 109-104. That game stayed well under the total of 235.5. As far as the shooting percentages, both teams shot below average. Knicks were really bad shooting in that game, 40%, 21 from 3, and they still won the game by 4. By the way, that game that soared over with 266 points, not a surprise. Both teams were lights out shooting, including 46 and 54% from 3. So, as is often the case, the shooting percentages make the difference. But the pace, once again, 214 points with bad shooting by New York, right around this total of 217 here. So it shows how much lower this playoff total has been adjusted based on the regular season compared to the regular season, where we saw 248, 235.5, and then when they played again on February 10th, 237.5 in Indiana, and that game barely stayed under with 236 points. Indiana won again by double digits rather easily, 125 to 111. In that game, the Indiana Pacers had a 22-point lead. Knicks never led by more than 4. By the way, that game was in New York. I misspoke. It was in New York, the rematch. Pacers won 125-111 on the road as a 3-point favorite in New York. And Indiana was playing pretty good basketball at that point. As I mentioned, Halliburton's been really strong at times in this series. He had 22 points again, and he had 12 assists this time. If we look through the box score, Siakam had 19 points, was 2 for 6 from 3. Brunson, once again, 39 points, another monster game. He was only 1 for 5 from 3-point range, and he still had 39 points in that most recent meeting. Josh Hart's a guy to keep an eye on. He only had 4 points in that game, was only 2 for 6 shooting. He has obviously been a better player in the postseason. In fact, last 2 games against Philly, he had 16 and 18. In fact, in the 6 games against Philadelphia in that last series, he had 16 points or more in 5 of the 6 games. His total is only set at 15 here for Game 1. So it'll be interesting to see if Hart dominates like he did against the Sixers, or if he regresses a bit like he did in the regular season matchups against the Pacers. And by the way, when they won that game, the second game, 109-105, Hart had only 5 points, 0 for 6 shooting. So that's a guy we might have to take a wait-and-see approach on. He was great last series, but he did not do much against the Pacers this year in the regular season. And going back to the December 30th game, he only had 10 points, 4 for 9 shooting. So the matchup did not work as well for Hart, so I'd be a little careful with him, even though he went over in 5 of the 6 games, his point total against Philadelphia. Let's see if there's anybody else we can talk about here. Let's go back to Halliburton real quick while we can. I mentioned how strong he was in those 2 February games against the Knicks, especially from an assist perspective. His point total wasn't really there against Milwaukee. In fact, he went under the point total in 4 of his 6 games against the Bucks. So I think points and assists is probably a safer option. He actually went under points and assists 5 of the 6 games against the Bucks. So if you're looking for a guy that maybe rebounds and plays better now, I think Halliburton has some upside after going under in 5 of the 6 games against Milwaukee points and assists, whereas Hart went over 5 of the 6 against the Sixers. A couple guys to keep an eye on. We might find some value with the zigzag with them here in this series. All right, that's your game at 7:30 Eastern tonight on TNT. Let's look at the late game between the Timberwolves and Nuggets. Just a quick reminder, I am #1 this year in the NBA, and I'm #1 all-time in the history of WagerTalk.com Units 1. I love the NBA, and large part of the profits over the years comes in the NBA postseason. We're off to a great start again. Had a tough loss yesterday with the under in the Cleveland game. The entire second half, the live line was about 186 to 190, 191, and then a ton of free throws. About 60-some free throws because a lot of fouling late. Orlando trying to survive, pushed it over by a couple baskets, so it was very frustrating. And it shows why you don't just take a one-day approach or a one-game approach. We don't win every play. We all know that. But we win a lot more than we miss. And my record proves it. We're #1 all year this season in the NBA, and I'm #1 all time in NBA profits at WagerTalk.com. And it's not too late to get on board. I've got a strong best bet tonight on Monday. I've got an advanced best bet for tomorrow on Tuesday posted already for my clients. So plays once again for both tonight and Tuesday night are available right now for NBA clients. You get them emailed to you directly when they're ready with full analysis. You can get the individual games, you can get the 1 week sampler, or you get the rest of the playoffs now for the lowest price of the season. Go to my page. Go to the right-hand side, you'll see the drop-down menu, select basketball, and select rest of NBA playoffs for a very special price. Works out to less than $4 a day. Now, if you want baseball and basketball, and you should because baseball's been on a nice run as well over the past several weeks. In fact, since the playoffs started over 2 weeks ago, baseball and basketball have both been cashing. Well, I do still have an all-sports special for you, which gets you the next full year. This includes all of the college and pro football season, all of next year's college basketball, the rest of this year's NBA playoffs, all the way up next year through the first round of the playoffs, and the rest of this baseball in the first month plus next year of baseball. It's a full 365 days and nights no matter how you cut it. But the best part is you get an instant $800 discount with promo code SM365. Once again, on the right-hand side, you'll see the all-access, all-sports packages. Do the drop-down menu, select the one-year special, but be sure to enter promo code SM365 at checkout for that instant $800 discount. That works out to just $3 a day. That's about $1 a play for every college and pro football, college and pro basketball, and Major League Baseball best bet for the next 365 days and nights. About $1 per play. You do the math. It doesn't matter what you're playing. You can make money when you're paying just $1 per play for my strong best bets. But you got to have promo code SM365 for that all sports 1 year special. Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com. Get there quicker with shortcut WT.buzz/SM. All right, let's look at the late game between the Timberwolves and Nuggets. And, of course, this is Game 2. And Game 1 between the Magic's Thunder and Game 1 Cavs Boston isn't even until tomorrow. So that means the Nuggets and T-Wolves have played 2 games before the Mavs and Thunder play even 1 game. That's how the NBA rolls. They don't mess around. This game at 10 o'clock also on TNT. And, of course, I mentioned the under. I leaned towards the under in Game 1 here, free for you in the video on Saturday. And I mentioned that I thought the situation was good for Denver, but the line was too high. And Minnesota didn't need that line value. They won the game outright, but it was largely due to an 18-4 start. In fact, the Nuggets covered the first half line. How crazy is that? You're down 18-4. And be honest, did any of you have Denver first half? If you do, were you feeling good about it at 18-4? Or how about the other side of that? Minnesota, they win the game outright. They cover. But if you had Minnesota first half, you lost despite an 18-4 start. It just shows the randomness, the short-term variance. You know, I just talked about taking a long-term consistent investment approach. these games, it's the same thing. Random things can happen in the short term. Very interesting game, though. Minnesota did pull away and win. If you're a Nuggets fan, there's a few things that concern you. First of all, Denver lost the game at home by 7, yet they were +6 from three-point range, and they took more free throws, 20-12. Let's put that in perspective. Nuggets are near the bottom of the league in free throw attempts. They were +7 and +6. They were +13 from three-point and free throws and still lost by 7. That means Minnesota was +20 from two-point range, which is a more consistent scoring metric. So I do think this line remains inflated. Now, once again, the situation favors Denver, especially at home off a loss. So situation favors Denver, but now instead of 4.5, the line is 5.5. And I already told you the other day, pure power ratings make it 2.5 or 3. So real conflict here. You've got the line value once again with Minnesota, but the situation probably does favor Denver to bounce back. But as far as the overall series goes, hey, T-Wolf fans, it's looking pretty good for you. Not only did they steal game 1 in the thin air and altitude, but they were +20 from two-point range. This is a young team, talented team, almost the 1 seed. And I've said all along, you know, if you just took away the inexperience, Minnesota might be the team to beat. They've got a superstar in Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns, a good outside shooting big man, and then the best defensive player in the league, Gobert. This is the championship stuff you look for in a team, but then the inexperience was a concern. What do? They sweep the veteran Suns 4-0, and they go and they beat Denver 1-0. So from a series perspective, I think Minnesota definitely could win this series, but once again, it looks like it's probably a good spot for Denver here in Game 2. Best scenario might be Denver wins this, and then Minnesota, we get them in Game 3 back at home, maybe at a discounted price. We'll have to see how this plays out. As far as the total, I mentioned I leaned under in Game 1. I gave that to you free in the video on Saturday. I know many of you used it. That game landed at 205, and it was right under the total of about 210 where it closed. But if you dig into the box score, my rescoring model actually had it in the 190s still, and that's because Denver and Minnesota shot 47 and 52% from the field, including 41 and 42% from 3, and they still stayed under it, just 205. So if they were near their normal shooting percentages, this game would have been in the 190 range. Now, Game 1s do have a tendency to be slower paced. That's one of the reasons I lean towards the under. Games 2, even Games 3s and 4s are often higher scoring, so we could see more pace in this game. That's something to keep an eye on. But as I mentioned in the video on Saturday, these are 2 of the slower teams in the league. The T-Wolves are the best defensive team in the league, #1 defensive efficiency, whereas Denver's in the top 8 as well. They're ranked number 8. But then if you look at pace, which is so important with totals, you've got Denver 5th slowest team and Minnesota the 8th slowest team in the league. So once again, that's why the under might make some sense. As far as the total here, close around 210. They have definitely bumped it lower to 206 now. So we're talking about a couple baskets lower. The odds makers are pricing this pretty much where Game 1 landed on Saturday. All right, hope you're finding these videos useful. Let's look at some player props. By the way, if you are finding them useful, do me a couple quick favors. If you want to see these daily videos, if you want me to continue to do every NBA game every day here on this channel, just comment below and say, hey, Steve, I love the videos. Keep them coming, and let me know, and I will keep them coming. I love the comments. I love the support. I do read them all, and I reply back to the vast majority, time permitting. So once again, please comment below. I read them all, and I reply back. Thumbs up, like also is a great way to keep the content free here on WagerTalk TV. Hit subscribe, become part of the 151,000 followers and family here on the channel. And don't forget also click the bell as well if you want instant alerts. You know, I got that Cleveland-Orlando video up Sunday morning because it was just a few hours before the game. So you get an instant alert the minute these daily videos go up. So you don't have to go searching for them. You'll get an instant alert. You can be the first to watch, comment, and like, and take this actionable information to the bank, hopefully. Let's look at some player props for you here on the way out. In this Minnesota and Denver game. Obviously, Anthony Edwards had a huge Game 1 with 43 points. He took 29 of their 82 shot attempts. Karl Anthony Towns had 20. Gobert, more of a defensive presence, 3 for 6 shooting, 6 points. He did what he needed to. Always look to zigzag, though, especially guys that maybe underperformed. And I think maybe we have a candidate with Jaden McDaniels here. He had no points, an 0 after scoring 18 points in that series-winning game against the Phoenix Suns. So he is a candidate to bounce back. And the reason I say that is he's really zigged and zagged in this playoffs. In fact, he has gone under, over, under, over, under. So that means an over is likely to come again. 9 points in Game 1 against Phoenix, and then 25. 5 points in Game 3, and then 18. No points in Game 1 against Denver. His total is now set at 8.5. It was 9.5. Now it's 8.5, the lowest it's been in the postseason. So Jaden McDaniels, I think, could have some upside. And yes, he didn't score, But let's look at the shot attempts. He was 0 for 7 from the field. So he was taking some shots. They just weren't falling. Jaden McDaniels over 8.5 I think is worth a look for the Minnesota Timberwolves. And as far as the Nuggets, Jokic should have a bounce-back game here, especially if Denver gets the win as a 5.5-point favorite. Yes, he had 32 points, but he did not even have a double-double. And I mentioned the video Saturday, he had a few double-doubles against Minnesota this season. 32 points, only 8 rebounds, 9 assists. The assist is usually what hurts him. So I think Jokic, double-double or triple-double could be in play. Now, the concern is that Minnesota is the most efficient defense in the league, and they play slow. So it's going to be tougher for Jokic to get as many possessions. Points will be there, no question about that. But rebounds and assists are going to be a little bit tougher. But he still got close, 8 and 9 for each, 9 assists, 8 rebounds. Jokic double-double, triple-doubles could be in play here in Game 2. Michael Porter Jr. had a huge game with 20 points, 6 for 13 shooting. He maybe is a candidate to regress a little bit, but once again, each of the last 5 playoff games, he has had 20 points or more, and his total is only 18.5. In fact, he's had 19 or more in every playoff game so far, all 6 Lakers, T-Wolves. He's had 19 or more, and he's only 18.5. So while I'm looking for him to regress, they just haven't moved the line enough maybe to give us any value there. Jamal Murray, 17 points, 6 for 14 shooting. Always got to worry a little bit about his health. One guy I will mention, Caldwell Pope, 6 points. Now, normally you would look for him to maybe have a bigger game, but he was only 2 for 4 shooting, and he was actually 50% from three-point range, 2 for 4 from beyond the arc, and he still only had 6 points. His total remains at 8.5, and this is a guy that in 4 of his last 5 playoff games has had 6 or less. He had 12 and 14 in 2 games against the Lakers. He had 5, 5, and 6 in the other ones, and just 6 in Game 1 against the T-Wolves. So once again, Caldwell Pope has now had 6 points or less in 4 of his last 5 playoff games. His total is 8.5. I think there's still some value with Caldwell Pope under 8.5 total points, as he only took 4 shot attempts in that last game. All right, once again, deep dive each and every day here on the channel. We will continue to do daily NBA videos for you. If you're liking them, please comment below and let me know. Also, let me know what you like tonight, sides and totals for each game, player props. Include some analysis if you have time. Let's learn and earn and win together here on WagerTalk TV. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and X at Steve Merril, 2 R's, 1 L, at Steve Merril on Twitter and X. Also post free plays throughout the week on Instagram, so follow me on IG along with WagerTalk. And don't forget, if you want my personal best bets each and every day, they're on my page along with daily free plays. I forgot to mention that. If you're building your bankroll, if you're a new handicapper, check out the free plays. They're my last cut. They're strong plays still. They do quite well long term. Once again, the game that's just a bit outside from making the cut is the free play every day, and I give that to everybody free with analysis on my page. Go get the Monday free play. Check out the Monday night best bets. And while you're there, highly consider taking a serious investment approach. Whether you get the rest of the NBA playoffs for the special discounted price this week, or if you want that 1-year all sports all access for just $1 a play with promo code SM365. Check it out right now, Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com. Get there quicker with shortcut WT.buzz/SM. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the games tonight. Best of luck, and stay tuned right here to WagerTalk TV for more great baseball and basketball previews coming up next.